Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wonder Series, your weekly opportunity to wonder how life would be if you looked at it from a different perspective, changed your mindset, and opened yourself up to the possibilities. Who would you be? What would you create? And ultimately, how could this help you live that healthy, happy lifestyle that you are meant to live? I'm Denise Stegall. I'm CEO here at livinghealthylist.com and the host of the Wonder Series. Well, during the month of November, thankfulness or gratitude is in the forefront of our minds. We even set an entire day aside to be thankful. However, having an attitude of gratitude every day during the year can propel you forward in life and bring you absolute joy. So I am really excited to speak to my guest today. He has fast become one of my favorite people in the world, and I love listening to his perspective on life through gratitude. So my guest today is David George Brooke, aka That Gratitude Guy. He's been a speaker, a coach, a best-selling author for over 25 years. So I think he may have a little bit of information that he has to share with us. He is a former Nordstrom store manager. Nordstrom's one of my favorite stores, and managed in the corporate world for over 30 years. He has published works that include That Gratitude Guy's Daily Gratitude Journal, which is on its way. It is available on Amazon. Monday Morning Minutes, 100 Messages of Gratitude, 6-word lessons to embrace gratitude, and many, many more. David, it is lovely to have you here. Thank you for spending time with us today.
Thank you, Denise. It's always great. As I mentioned earlier, I was listening to your podcast and thinking, how did I find such a neat person? Gosh, how did that work out? So it's wonderful to be a guest on the Wonder Series.
Well, it's been really fun. You and I have had some great conversations, and I always learn something new from you. Every single time whether you and I are chatting or if I'm listening to your podcast. So tell us a little bit about David and how he became that gratitude guy.
Well, thank you for asking. It's kind of a two-part answer, if you will. When I was 19, I had the good fortune of going and speaking at a high school teacher of mine when I went on to the University of Washington. I went and spoke to his class back in the high school he was teaching. And I did a little 30-minute talk, and then I walked to my car, and it hit me right then. I thought, that's what I want to do someday. I want to be a motivational speaker. So that was when I was 19, which is over 40 years ago. And it wasn't until about 9 or 10 years ago that I finally decided that it's good enough time to go out and do what I always wanted to do, because life is going by fast, as all of us know that get into the 4th or 5th or 6th decade. And so I made the decision to become a speaker. And what the gratitude piece, kind of the second half of it is how did I get to be speaking about gratitude, is I just had suffered a lot of tragedies. And my parents had died when I was relatively young, and my dad took his own life. And then my wife, unfortunately, passed away when my sons were 4 and 14. So there was just a lot of traumas and trials and tribulations, if you will, that I needed to figure out a way to get through. And I always say a coping mechanism. And along the way, I found gratitude. And as I say so many times, gratitude helps you focus on what you have. And one of my pet sayings is gratitude turns what you have into enough. And it just helped me. You mentioned earlier, Denise, mindset. It just helped me to get the proper mindset of, again, focusing on my blessings and abundance and not my lack. And that's so important. And so that really ended up getting me through a lot of other things. And there were other ups and downs. I don't know a person that hasn't experienced the roller coaster effect of life, where it's a series of ups and downs. It's not all up and it's not all down. And particularly the downs is when it really helped me. And so then I developed a gratitude journal, and I feel very strongly about, because people will say, well, tell me about the gratitude practice. And I say, one of the most important things, maybe the centerpiece, is having a gratitude journal, because you're writing it every day. And here's the Brookers, or That Gratitude Guy's Daily Gratitude Journal. Of course, I wrote it this morning, as I do faithfully every day, but it totally shifts your mindset. And there's something about writing that's so powerful. As we sit on all these devices and we type, and that's not bad. And then you can get your phone and I'm grateful, and you can record it. But there's something about writing it with this instrument called a pen, and in a book or a journal called a piece of paper, that really plants it in your brain, and that gives you kind of the staying power. And there's a little saying in the book that says, if you think about it, it's like a dream. If you talk about it, it inspires you. But if you write about it, it empowers you, and it just gets in your brain process. And as you get older, they talk about exercise is so important for our physical body, but also we want to exercise our brain too. And one of the things to do that is writing. They talk about crossword puzzles and all these things. Keep your brain active because it's like a muscle that needs to be exercised. So it was quite a long journey, but as I look back on it, I couldn't be happier. And as Steve Jobs said, connecting the dots backwards, it really now all makes sense how I got there a lot later in life. I started at 62, now I'm 71. And they're just things in life you look at it such a different perspective from your 60s or 70s than I do in my 20s or 30s. So it's been a fantastic journey and something that I feel very blessed to be a part of.
That's amazing. And truly, we're blessed to have you in a place where you want to share with the world.
Thank you.
Because it's so true. None of us get off this planet unscathed. Life has its ups and its downs. And I would hope that we have more ups than downs, but we do go through periods where, things do kind of look grim, for a while. I know the last year and a half, like, people have really struggled. And I think, I hate to focus on that, but I think this is where people can understand things are different now. And so, getting through, kind of this life unscathed, it doesn't happen. So how do you move forward in life? And gratitude to me it really does show you where you can find joy in those times of trouble, those times of woe, whatever they may be.
Well, and that's a great point, Denise. And I think one of the things, I remember reading a book called The Shack, and it was kind of a fictionalized version of God and Jesus and so forth. But it was really got a point across to me that I guess I'd always struggled with, is that everything has to have a symmetry. Up has to have down, left has to have right, and good, bad, grateful, ungrateful. And it's part of the balance of life. It can't be all good. And remember reading another book years ago, Why Bad Things Happen to Good People. And it came back to kind of the same conclusion. So if we can, in fact, acknowledge that life is a roller coaster, if it is up and down, you're going to have good days and bad days. That's great. So the good days are fantastic. Everybody, as I always say, people return your phone calls, they get back to you on the email, they take out the lunch. But on the bad days, when everything goes to voicemail or nobody ever calls you back or gets back to you, what do you do then? It's just you and the person in the mirror. And that's where having that gratitude mindset is so important. And as I've said many times in my talks, it's just so important to me to get across this point about it's a choice. And you get out of bed every day and you can get out on the left side or the right side, up or down, positive, negative, grateful or ungrateful, as I said earlier. And it's a choice. And people don't acknowledge that sometimes. Well, you don't understand. Another one of my favorite lines that people say to create an excuse. But it's a choice that you get to make. And nobody makes that choice for you. That's just you. So it's really fantastic. And I think that in the sense of the gratitude thing is that it does give you that mindset, and how we choose that mindset, you mentioned that word earlier, is so important. And it can just kind of create everything and give you a balance. And back to the ups and downs, somebody said once, can you be grateful while you're grieving? And yes, it's hard to be grateful when you're grieving. I've had many losses, or a number of losses. But at the same time, I'm looking out on Lake Washington. There's not a cloud in the sky. There's a blue sky, and this is a rainy place. It's an absolutely gorgeous day. Well, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for a good night's sleep, a hot shower this morning, and so forth. So it's never going to be perfect in life, but at least when the downs come, you've got a good sort of coping mechanism that can really work well.
You make a very good point. It's the sunny day, it's the comfy bed, it's the simple things that really make life kind of worth living. Mm-hmm. And I don't think most people look at those things and think, oh, I'm grateful for them. They're looking at the big things that are happening in their lives.
Right.
So let's focus on some of those smaller things in life.
Well, and I think I'm fresh off listening to a podcast with you as my guest, and I was thinking about just the food choices. That was yesterday when I listened to that. And there are so many small things, and it's just having a good meal, speaking of food choices, and enjoying the laugh of your children, or getting to FaceTime your child, or talking to your mom or dad, or whatever it might be, or purchasing a gift for somebody for an upcoming birthday, or whatever it is. There's so many small things. And I think a term I've always liked, we get caught up in the big things. We get all upset about these things, which I read something recently. You and I were talking earlier about a lot of the research that we do in our respective fields. And there was an article that had some survey and it said like 95% or 90% of everything that people worried about never happened. So they're spending all this energy on it. And so, and I think too, it's just such a nice sort of mindset. People want to be around people that focus on their blessings and abundance. And I do an exercise in my talks. It depends on how much time I have, called the association evaluator. And I ask people to do 4 things. I want you to consider reevaluating your friendships, who you hang out with. I think it was Jim Rohn that said you're the average of the 5 people you hang out the most with and how much money you make and the attitude you have. But what was interesting is they said, number 1, you may want to disassociate with somebody, maybe no people, maybe no one rather, but 1 or 2 people. Then next, you may want to limit your associations with somebody because it's not quite as good or healthy for you. Number 3, my favorite, like Denise, is you may want to expand your association with somebody and see them more. And number 4, is get somebody that you mentor or you can be mentored by. And I love the litmus test around that. And that is, I picture, like, even though we're on Zoom or on the camera, it feels like we're at Starbucks having a coffee and Denise is just 4 feet away from me. But it's like you go to Starbucks or on Zoom, and then after you're done, do you feel better, the same, or worse? And if you feel better, expand your association. If you feel the same and it's not much, maybe you limit. And if you feel better, it's time to expand that association with that person. So that known by the company or keep. So there are just so many little things, to your point, that we can focus on. And it's obviously infinite if you went all day. And that's why, should I write the same thing every day in my gratitude journal? Well, if you're grateful for it every day, I always write a hot shower every day, but I sure write how grateful I am for my health every day. And then what I was, again, able to have a nice hot shower or sleep or whatever. So yeah, the answer is it's almost infinite in the things you could be thinking for to be grateful for.
Absolutely. And I think it also helps, when you are grateful for the things in your life, you start to realize that there are certain things that you can control in life and certain things you can't. Going back to what you said about, people worried about things and like 90% of the time they didn't even happen.
Right.
So when you have that attitude of gratitude, I like the alliteration, it's so much easier to focus on the things in your life that you can control. Right. First and foremost, you can control one thing or one person, yourself. But it makes it a lot easier to understand and manage the fact that you can't control other people, what other people do or what other people think or what they say.
Right. And it's such a good point too, because it ties back into another module that I cover, is the relationship you have with yourself and your self-esteem. And I think that when you're focusing on those blessings that you have, it puts you in a better mood. And so if you think about going and looking in that mirror, and I use the 1 to 10, and you think, what's your self-esteem today? Just the 2 of you and the person in the mirror. And if it's a 6 or a 7, that's not bad out of 10. But if it's a 9 or a 10, everything in your life works better. Because you look at things, you're so much more aware of the things and the blessings that you have, because you just really like that person. Yeah. In fact, I think sometimes on a whole other psychology kind of discussion, it's amazing the behaviors that people show that don't like the person in the mirror, and how they act out and the things that they say and the snide remarks, the trolls. There's all these things. Like, I get a kick out, I get trolls on YouTube because I have a lot of YouTube videos, and they take shots at you. And I think they're just somebody that's just jealous and doesn't feel as good about themselves. So that's another byproduct, if you will, of the gratitude thing, where you're constantly writing and constantly thinking about your blessings. Your self-esteem goes up. When your self-esteem goes up, your whole life works better. It's amazing.
Absolutely. You just made me think of a time when I was a young girl. Maybe I was in junior high school, and there were these girls that used to pick on me. And I don't know I never did anything to them. I never said anything. I didn't really even know these girls. And I remember my mom saying to me, Denise, those girls are jealous of you.
She's right.
And I thought, what on earth do they have to be jealous of? I'm a 13-year-old girl. 13-year-old girls are gangly and we're weirdly shaped, and we have body image issues, all of us, and some self-esteem issues because we're teenagers. And I thought about that, and you just made a very good point with the trolls. My mom said that to me years ago, and that has always stayed in my mind. When somebody, for whatever reason, says something negative about me, about what I'm doing, or has something really not unpleasant to say, I do step back. And I appreciate that my mom said that to me years and years ago,
Mm.
because I can see through that now and continue to move forward with what I want to do and how I want to live my life. And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, and you just made me think of something after spending about 15 years at Nordstrom, and I was thinking as you said that, I'll make this comment, but I'm very careful how I say it in the culture that we're in today about what the things you can and cannot say. But I found it interesting that back to when you were, what did I do to, why are these girls picking on me when, and you just doing, trying to be a good student or be a good friend or whatever, a good classmate. And I found it interesting. I wouldn't say 100% of the time, but I'd say 80, 90% of the time when one person, we say at a manager with another manager, came to complain about me with the other manager. Now women's about, Nordstrom is about 75, 85% women. And I noticed it was so ironic. Generally, the person that was complaining about the other one, they weren't very attractive. And the person they were complaining about was quite attractive and maybe more talented than they were. It isn't just the looks, but it was that thing. And I thought, gosh, that's always funny, because what is that about? Again, how we behave. So we can either do one of the things, we can build ourselves up and feel better about ourselves, which is what gratitude does, or they would chop down somebody else to make them just rise by, processes of elimination, if you will. And I always thought it was such a shame because again, you said body issues, and there's a lot of different things, but there's some people that have not, which is why when I was listening to your podcast, I just loved all the tips I got again about health. There's certainly people who do not elect to take care of themselves. They gain a ton of weight. They don't take the time to know how they look at say, a place like Nordstrom. It's very important how you look because you're a walking billboard. I want that suit that you have. Do you have that tie? We're kind of an advertisement for the company. But it was amazing how many people the ones that didn't take care of themselves and make a nice presentation complained about the ones that did. And I think that's always going to be that way. But if they went back and looked at themselves and put themselves up to a higher standard, they probably wouldn't feel that way.
I would agree. And, as a health coach, I mean, my background is food and nutrition, and my whole lifestyle is a healthy lifestyle. And like you said, I'm a walking billboard for my business.
Exactly.
And I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. And when I look at people and I want to help them, I can't reach out and help. People need to want that support. It's really hard for me to understand why somebody who is struggling with their health, with their happiness, with their overall satisfaction, why they wouldn't reach out and say, you know what, I do need help. I want more.
Well, and go ahead.
I think that's what gratitude does. It gives you more.
Yes. And it's always, again, it just continues to increase that relationship with the person in the mirror. And as I said several times, the better that relationship is, the better everything works. And thinking again, fresh off listening to your podcast yesterday and kind of revisiting it after we recorded it. And one of my favorites among many was this multi-million, billion-dollar industry, the weight industry, a weight loss industry, I should say. And it's a simple formula, a simple calculation, calories in, calories out. There's all these other things. And so why somebody elects not to take care of themselves, take care of their body, how they dress or present themselves, how they groom themselves, those are all things. Because again, we were walking billboards, as I said, at Nordstrom. I can't figure that one out. And you can go back and sometimes trace it to how they were brought up and they didn't have the best circumstances. And I understand that, but there's many cases. I think of the gentleman that Will Smith played in, I'm drawing a blank on the Happiness movie, and he became a stockbroker. And he was living on the street.
Right, he was living on the street with his son.
Yeah, exactly. And he became a very successful movie. So he didn't have a good background, and look what he did. So it can be done. And that's why I think it's another thing, maybe for another podcast, is just really understanding the power of why. Why do you do something? For what you and I do, I know you well enough now and you know me well enough. A lot of it is because I want to help people. I want to show if we make a difference in one person today, it's a huge victory. And then just having come back from some speaking gigs back in person, it's the same thing. It's multiple people. But even if one person said, I love the point you made here, we've done our job. We've moved the needle. And there's nothing more satisfying. Denise, I'll never forget when you said blank. Denise, you're the only person that ever took the time. Any of those kinds of things, I get chills just thinking about it because we're impacting lives and we're giving them, whether it's the nutrition and the healthy piece or the gratitude piece, tools and things to work with to help you maybe change your life. And I still love it when somebody said to me one day, if you want to change your life, change your life. What a great line. And so, but it's the tools, and that's what you and I are trying to do, is explain to people, if you're going to complain, I don't have a problem with the complaining if somebody does something about it. Some people just complain for complaining's sake. But if somebody complains and then they say, what would you do? And then you go down, and you and I both healthy living lists. I'm a huge list person. I have lists of everything. I have lists of the list, but it is, here's the list. Let's do these 5 things. Let's do these 10 things. And when you see somebody achieve that, there's nothing more gratifying knowing that you were a part of that.
Absolutely. I agree. To complain for complain's sake, people love to do that. But if somebody, if somebody has a true complaint in life, what's going on, whatever it might be, that's fine. I mean, we all have something at some point in life to complain about. But if you don't have an idea how to fix that, or a thought process, maybe just complaining just for the sake of complaining gets people in a really bad cycle. And I think, when people do complain, when they come to me, and so I'm working with somebody, they come to me with some kind of complaint that they're struggling with. And the first thing I do, I don't tell them what I think they need to do. I ask them what they think they need to do. And you'd be amazed at how quickly that complaint goes away.
Oh, nice.
Because the person has thought about an answer rather than, I don't know what to do. Everybody, we all know how to make, we all know how in some way, shape, or form to make our lives that little bit better every day.
Well, and you and I both coach, and let's face it, one of the keys to a successful coach is knowing the right questions to ask. And sometimes we ask enough or go a little bit deeper or whatever. And in fact, speaking of questions, and this is why I was so fond of all the things that you're doing and the impact that you're making, is, I may have said it before, but it's just such a huge thing for me. One of the biggest questions I have in life, this entirety of life, is I've never understood why people don't take better care of themselves. Please try to explain to me, you've got one body, one heart, one set of lungs, one set of kidneys, one liver. And I used to say facetiously, I'd love to interview some of the organs. And can you imagine interviewing a liver of an alcoholic? Hey, I'm doing the best I can to filter out all this stuff, but you're making it tough, pal, or something. And I think that's why the answer to that is people are looking for ways to self-medicate or to self-soothe or whatever. And so alcohol and drugs and a lot of those things are a short-term answer for them, but they are deadly and destructive and deadly. And I always offer gratitude and a gratitude journal as this really healthy coping mechanism that can help shift your mindset. And then the people always challenge me. It's kind of like the trolls that take the shots or whatever. Yeah, but what about this? What about that? And I said, you know what? Hold on. If everything is going wrong and you got your sleep, drank your water, hung out with some positive friends, wrote your gratitude journal, did your meditation, did your stretching, got your exercise, ate some good food, and you're still having a bad day, okay, I got an answer for you. Just get to tomorrow. Because today was just not a day that worked, and it's okay. My young son, I said, because having dealt with some depression things I inherited from my mother, I said to my younger son, who's now 27, I said, you ever have like a bad day, Con? It's a very sensitive subject with kids and with depression, anxiety, suicide, and so forth. And he says, oh, I have 1 or 2 bad days a month, but I figure 28 out of 30 is not too bad. And I thought, there's a great attitude, seeing the glass half full.
I love it. That's so great to hear. It's funny when we talk about, the journal and why it's so important to write it down. I have a dear friend who is struggling right now and has for a good chunk of her life with some depression and some anxiety, been on medication, seen lots of doctors. And she said she recently switched doctors, or I think she switched doctors. And this particular doctor gave her a book that comes with a journal. And she said, and she's 30 years old. Since writing it down in this journal, her thoughts, her feelings, her fears, she said she feels like her life is changing.
Wow, that's great.
And I asked her, I said, is it the book? She says, no, it's getting it out. It's writing it down. She said, because I feel like, when it's a negative thought, if I write it down, it's gone. And of course, part of this training or this book that she's going through has each day has a piece for gratitude.
Oh, nice.
Which she says she's never really thought about before. And now that she's going through this process, she realizes that she has so many amazing things in her life.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. And it's so important that leads me to this idea of how fast does it take or how much time does it take to change behavior. And I tell a story in my talks about being a store man or being a department manager at Nordstrom. And this one guy came up to me and he says, everybody thinks you think you're pretty hot and you think, you're winning all the contests and everything. And I shook his hand and I said, thank you. And I walked and he said, and by the way, one of the big things is you never talk to anybody. You walk around in your briefcase and your little necktie and everything, and you think you're so cool. And I thought, I think you can snap your fingers and change behavior right now. Not 30 days, not 2 weeks, not 90 days. And I walked out of that lunchroom and I started saying hi to everybody. Became the friendliest guy. I got more people that were in my team or on supporting me just because I changed behavior that quickly. So I think literally today, November 10th, whatever, you can start writing a gratitude journal today or tomorrow, just like your friend. And what a great endorsement for that she said that she saw the difference. I hope people pick up on that because that's a fantastic example of how it makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's so simple.
Mm-hmm.
That's the piece that I think people kind of look, well, there has to be more to it than that.
Right.
That's too simple. It's too easy. It's the same thing with losing weight.
Yeah.
Calories in, calories out. It's what you're eating and how much you're expending. It's that easy.
But I think also, Denise, I think it's important to remember, what did that guy say on the podcast? It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. And so you're absolutely correct. It's simple. It takes me, I've timed this a million times. It takes me 5 to 6 minutes to write my gratitude journal. And so, but what I notice in the morning is stretching is 15 minutes. Gratitude journal is 5 minutes. Meditation is 15 minutes. And well, I just don't have this time. But if you make it important enough and everybody's got 24 hours a day. And so it's something that, yes, it takes some effort, but gosh, the reward is so fulfilling. And it's just really neat, just like that gal you just mentioned, a young lady you just mentioned. Gosh, there's definite proof in the pudding right there.
Absolutely. And it's true. You do need to make it an important part of your life. So what I started doing a handful of years ago, because I don't think I didn't always look at a gratitude journal the way I do now. I always thought, I got a journal. Like I kind of wrote in it like a diary.
Yeah.
And that's a totally different animal.
Yeah.
But what I started to do was I get up an hour early. And for some people they can do that, some people they can't. But this is what I choose to do. I get up an hour early. My husband's already up. He's out of the bedroom. He's doing his thing. But I'm in my room. I have my 15 or 20 minutes of meditation. Just depends on the day. I do my gratitude journal. I try to do a little bit of creative writing also
that's nice.
With my journal. And usually what happens, there's a word that prompts me. And I just write for maybe 5 minutes about whatever that word might be.
Mm-hmm.
And that has done amazing things for me in a couple of different ways. One, for my creative writing. All of a sudden I'm writing more and more. And that's a big part of what I do at Living Healthy List. But it also, it opens my mind to different ideas, to a bigger thought process. Right. And I think we get so stuck in, what's on the news? What are we watching on social media? Which podcasts are we listening to? And we're listening to other people. Right. We're not listening to ourselves anymore.
Well, and I think it's so important, like you said, that time alone in the morning is nobody knows you. Nobody knows me better than ourselves. I mean, we've been living in this body 24/7 and so forth. So people will ask me a lot, should I write in the gratitude journal in the morning or at night? And I said, well, whatever works best for you. I said, but I really think if I had to recommend one, I'd say the morning, because you're kind of setting the tone for the day. At night, they can say, yes, well, it sets a tone for going to sleep, and that's fine. But I think the thing that's so important when you know yourself and these are the things that need to be plugged into your day, like the creative writing, as you said, and it depends on where it works for you. I love the saying I heard years ago, and they said, I don't care what your system is, just get one. So it might be morning. It might be like for me, the writing. I do a lot of writing as well. I generally do that more in the afternoon or early evening. It just is it's in my brain at a different time. But the important thing is, whether it's Denise or David or anybody, is that it's getting done. So you can figure out how to put the pieces together, but whatever works, just make sure they're included. And all those things combined, that gratitude journal, creative writing, and the nutrition and the water and the sleep and the meditation and the stretching, all that, it's hard. When I go through all those protocols, if you want to call them that, it's almost impossible for me to ever feel in a bad mood. It's just, that's how powerful all those things are.
Mhm. Absolutely. One of the things that I do, not all the time, but I go through periods where in the evening I write down, what went well that day.
Oh, that's great. That's excellent.
And that can be an eye opener, especially when you think you've had an kind of day.
Right.
But even during an day, I mean, I had a great workout,
Mhm.
or there's always something.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to getting into that habit of practicing gratitude, being grateful for things is that start. But also, if you're struggling with it, that piece in the end of the day to say, what went well today, or what did I like about today?
Well, and I think that ties back into the symmetry we talked about, up and down and left and right, and there has to be a balance. There has to be good and bad. There has to be a balance. It's the same thing. How do you appreciate up if you haven't seen down? You have no scale of reference. And I think very similar to you, our lives have a lot of parallels. And there's days where the other day I went to bed about 9:30 something. I got up a few more times, worked on the computer, and got a bunch of stuff done till 1 o'clock. And I just accomplished a ton. And then there's other days, you know what? I'm just going to watch some TV. I'm not feeling it today. But that's what makes you appreciate those really super creative days, or whatever it is, when you get a lot of things done in your checklist. And not only do you and I talk about lists, but one of the best things to me is crossing off all those things off that list, scratching them with a piece of paper or the pen. Yeah, exactly. Hold on. There it is. And so it's just that sense of satisfaction. But having that balance and really appreciating that is so important. And that's why whatever getting a system, whatever it is, just get one that works for you, but include all those different protocols into your day.
I love it. I love all those great tidbits. For somebody who is just starting, what is the first thing that they should do? We've given people a lot of information.
You bet. Great question. And I think the first thing that I would say is I feel very passionate about the gratitude journal, obviously. And as I say, 5 to 6 minutes a day. But even if you're starting out, I heard this once and I love this line: it's better to do less than you hope for than nothing at all. So even if you start out with the one sentence, with one word, and just write it, put your journal, you can do that Gratitude Guys Gratitude Journal. You can get the spiral notebook. But I am so grateful for Denise for inviting me on to the Wonder Series. That took 4 seconds to write that out. I'm grateful to my mother and my father. If you start and then turn the book, the spiral, to the next day, if you just write one thing, one sentence, and then pretty soon 2 sentences and 3, you'll build on it. And eventually you'll be doing just like, there it is. It's all filled out for the day. And it still cracks me up when I was selling some books and a young man comes up and he goes, "Is this your personal journal?" And I go, "Yeah." And can I look at it? And I said, "Yeah." And he flips through it and he goes, "Wow, you write in this every day." And I said, "Did you listen to the talk? Were you in the room?" I mean, yeah, no, I just do it occasionally because after I write in this, I always feel better. So start, at least do something every day. That's the best advice I can give. And again, even if it's a word or a sentence, and pretty soon it's a couple words, a couple sentences, and you'll develop the momentum and it'll go from there.
Perfect. So everybody, we have no excuses. It's simple.
Exactly.
It's not just simple, it's easy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take a lot of time.
That's
and
right.
Gratitude will absolutely change your life. It will bring you joy. It will bring you comfort when you need be. It will just bring things into your life and people into your life that you never expected. So I wish everybody to practice, to find that attitude of gratitude, make it a daily part of your daily life. David, we are running out of time here. So before we go, please tell our listeners where they can find you, where they can listen to you, and all of the above.
Oh, thank you, Denise. Yes, the main point of contact is my website, which is thatgratitudeguy.com. You can also reach me at email at david@thatgratitudeguy.com for any questions. You can get the books on Amazon, is certainly an easy way to do it. And you can also reach me in the KS Media app, which is available on all your places that you get apps. And that's a great way to reach me as well as other podcasters and influencers. And it's just KS Media in the App Store. It's free. You sign up, you create an account, and you can access a lot of my information there as well. So any of those sources all work well. So, and I always appreciate any outreach from anybody that's listening.
Absolutely. I was just going to pop up the app. Here's the app, everyone. KS Media Group. Has it right there. You'll find David there. You'll find me there too.
That's right. That's right.
So please, everyone, find David, go to his website. Definitely go get a gratitude journal. You will absolutely benefit 110% from getting that and writing it every day. Find us on the KS Media Group app. It is a free app, and it is full of incredible information that will help you live your healthy, happy, perfect life.
And one more thing, Denise, too, if you go to my website, you get a gratitude journal, you get a second one for half off if you buy it through the website. So that saves you a little money from Amazon.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
You bet.
Thank you for being here, David. I always appreciate talking to you.
Thank you for having me, Denise. I loved it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here on the Wonder Series. We're here every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're live on Facebook, the Living Healthy List Facebook page, Denise Stegall Facebook page, and live on YouTube. We'll see you next Wednesday, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. Until then, I leave you with this: healthy living, happy life. Bye, everyone.